My 18, father, 48, and mother, 49, got mad at me for creating a vintage-themed card for my grandparents. I was tasked to create a Valentine's Day card for both my grandparents. They told me to make it around 7 p.m. the day before Valentine's Day. I told them yes and that I would also lay out one for my brother. Fast forward the next day, I barely slept since it took me 5 hours to finish the layouts. I also made a poem for them each in my Valentine's Day card. I woke up at around 8:30 a.m. The moment that I saw my dad, he berated me, saying how awful my design was. I told him, then don't make him use it. He got mad at me and proceeded to tell me that he was just looking out for me and everything. I'm livid since I pretty much worked hard on it. Then, my mom even interjected how awful my design was. I want to move out into my dream state college, but there is COVID. Any advice? Can you share the pictures of your card? I just love vintage stuff and I'd love to see! Anyways, your parents were very rude. If they have such good taste, then why don't they make cards themselves? Parents telling their kid that hard work amounted to something awful isn't criticism, it's just plain being an asshole. They were rude and the way they reacted to your cards was uncalled for. If they hate it so much, maybe they should make it themselves. Tasking you to do it and then being up in arms over it is plain BS. Perhaps they should have checked on your progress or provided input along the way if this was so darn important to them. Sorry you're dealing with this it's not okay. I don't know if they're always like this, but I hope that your grandparents are better. If so, I'd give them the cards anyway and let their warm reaction speak for itself, because in any empathetic family a heartfelt card made by a family member should be received warmly no matter what it looks like. Are you serious? What matters is the effort. I'm pretty sure it came out both today. I fucked uply. I love vintage. And certainly there isn't any real reason for them to react like that. They're too harsh. You put a lot of thoughts and effort and that's what truly matters. You did it after all. They're very wrong for saying that. I can't believe it. It sounds like both of your parents were pretty rude. Giving constructive criticism is one thing, but saying it is awful is just rude. What the actual hell is wrong with your parents? Is this kind of treatment normal for them? I'm 28M, worried about my ex-GF of a week's behavior, 27F, and I'm not sure how to go about helping her. She could also be pregnant with my baby. I broke up with my ex-GF just over a week ago. My profile will show you the cause of our breakup. She wanted me to propose with my mum's engagement ring. My mum didn't want to part with the ring. My ex-GF had a meltdown and I broke up with her because she showed some alarming behavior. In the past week, she has been bombarding me with texts and calls, even when all I replied to her was stop or please stop. Yesterday, she showed up to my parents' house yelling and crying out the front and tried to guilt my mum into giving her ring, again. My parents called the police, but all the police did was give her a warning and told her to leave. A few hours later she sent me a picture of a positive pregnancy test on a white counter. As you can imagine, there was some back and forth between us. I asked her to send me a picture of her holding the positive test. She called me an asshole and said I better be ready to be poor for the next 18 years cause she's gonna take all my money for child support. I tried to play it off as though I was just in shock, but in all honesty, the picture of the test looked very generic. I even googled positive pregnancy test and it looks exactly like one of the images that comes up. She maintained that she took the test at her friend's and it's their bathroom countertop. I asked if she'd come over and take a test with me in the bathroom and she called me a pervert and said she didn't want to have a pervert's baby and would be taking care of the issue ASAP. I tried to make out like I just wanted to relive the moment in seeing the test turn positive with her, but she's not replied back to me since. I messaged her friend, whose house she claimed to be at, but her friend said ex-GF wasn't there, wasn't talking to her and that she, friend, doesn't know anything about any pregnancy. I reached out to her mum, but her mum didn't know we'd broken up and says she hasn't seen her. I had a pretty blunt conversation with her mum about the past 2 weeks and her mum said, well, you created this mess, you clean it up. Without giving in to her demands of getting back together, proposing to her with my mum's ring and or accepting she's pregnant without definitive proof I see with my own eyes. How do I go about this? Tell her she better have better proof than a generic photo you found on Google. You demand there will be a DNA test, and once she's proven he is actually pregnant, you will communicate through a lawyer. Also tell her you're aware she is lying about where she took the test, because you've spoken to the friend. This chick is batshit crazy. I sincerely hope she's not pregnant with your baby. I don't know if I want to throw her friend under the bus, but the communication through the lawyer bit sounds good. She sounds mentally unstable, to be honest. You need to find out if she's telling the truth about the pregnancy, and if yes, you need to find out if you're the father. Don't go back with her. Alright, here we go. 1. She could be faking a pregnancy to try to force your hand. 2. If she's actually pregnant, you need to get a DNA test. This kind of behavior screams cheater. 3. You are smart to break up with her. She sounds like she has mental issues. 4. You would be a fool to get back together with someone that reacts this way to not getting your mother's ring. Your mom is still alive FFS, and said no, and then tries to blackmail / guilt trip / emotionally manipulate you. You better pray that she's not pregnant, or you are going to be stuck with this crazy for the rest of your life. So here's my advice. Find out if she's pregnant. I wager she's lying. If she is, get a DNA test, cause she could be trying to get pregnant or cheating on you. Don't get back with her, she sounds like a real mental case. Thank you. Getting back together isn't an option. She's been really disrespectful to my mum and dad, but mainly mum, and I feel like I don't know who she is. If the pregnancy is real, I will be asking for a DNA test. Can't recall exactly when the last time we had sex was, but I feel like it was over a month before we broke up, and I always wrapped up the goods. I feel like there was a reason your mom didn't want to give up her ring, and she was probably right. If this girl is actually pregnant, get a paternity test, but sounds like a sad lie. Cut her off completely, move on with your life. This sounds like typical dump text manipulative behavior. It is incredibly unlikely that she's pregnant. What a coincidence, huh? And she thinks saying it is going to get you back together. You did not create this mess. What a loving and caring mother when her daughter is obviously upset and in pain. Don't message your ex again unless she contacts you. If she continues to harass you, tell her that the relationship is over and that you'll be happy to discuss child-related issues once it is born and you have a paternity test, and ask her to stop contacting you in the meantime. Just keep repeating the message every time she contacts you. Keep all messages she sends you. There isn't much else you can do, as she is not behaving rationally, and any attempt to talk to or reason with her is going to go straight over her head. Her mom's reaction has kind of surprised me. She's not gonna win any Mother of the Year awards, but I thought if she knew her daughter was in trouble, she'd step up and try to help and comfort her. But she made it very clear that she thinks that's my responsibility, so I'm just trying to figure out how to go about this. BF, 22M, had sex with me while I, F20, pretended I was asleep. Context: my last relationship was domestically violent / sexually abusive, and I am diagnosed with PTSD from it. Hi, I understand this is a weird post, but I'm just really seeking some advice. Last night I was having sex with my boyfriend. We were both super drunk, and I'd taken some medicated CBD oil. We were in bed and I fully consented to sex. However, after ages I started to get really exhausted, so I stopped responding to him and started trying to sleep. I wanted to stop having sex and go to bed, so I pretended I'd passed out. He asked me, "Hey, are you okay?" And I didn't respond. He asked me a few other things and I didn't respond. He got out of me and laid next to me and asked me again and I didn't respond. I thought we'd go to bed, but instead he mounted me and had sex with me and came inside me. I didn't say a word and I didn't move. Afterwards, he laid in bed for a bit before waking me up to go pee to avoid getting a UTI. The next morning he apologized and said he was worried he went too far, but I pleaded ignorant until tonight. I asked if we'd had sex last night while I was asleep and he said no. He said I was responding and awake the whole time. However, I know that's not true because I played asleep. I'm seeking advice if this is normal behavior for a drunk person. I understand his inhibitions are lowered and he could have been blackout. We both drank the same same amount of alcohol, which was about 14-15 standards. I don't know if I should be upset as I don't want to talk about it to anyone I know. Earl and my relationship common sense is very skewed. My last boyfriend raped me multiple times, but it was very obviously intentional and he disregarded my consent sober as well as drunk. My current boyfriend is very lovely and never disrespects me sober, he can just be pushy about sex when he wants it. Thank you so much to anyone who gives me advice. Too long didn't read, pretended to be asleep and my boyfriend had sex with me, but was considerate enough to get me to pee afterwards. Not sure if this could be a genuine miscommunication or if I was disrespected. Wondering if my initial consent made it okay. 1. He stopped, which means he thought you were no longer conscious and therefore he should stop. 2. He started again. 3. He lied to you the next day. That is super bad. No idea why people are defending this. If your partner becomes unresponsive, you stop having sex with them. It's super simple. He was aware enough to lie to you later. He knew what he did was wrong, and this is not normal in the slightest. Deal breaker for me. The most worrying things to me are two things. 1. He actually got off of you when he realized you were asleep, then decided to go back in and finish. Scary. 2. He lied about it to you. Those are huge red flags to me. Edited to add, I definitely consider this rape. My current boyfriend is very lovely and never disrespects me sober, he can just be pushy about sex when he wants it. Love. This is called sexual coercion, and it's a form of sexual abuse. What he did is a part of his pattern of being pushy about sex, as is his gaslighting. You stopped responding and he stopped. Then he decided to continue. That is rape. And I'm so sorry this happened. Just all of it. I know how it all feels. You aren't alone.